Welcome to the Pixel Marketing Show, the podcast for real estate media pros who want to go from random acts of marketing to remarkable results. I'm your host, Pete Stagel, founder of Pixel CRM and creator of the Pixel Marketing Method. And every week, we're diving into the systems, strategies, and real stories that help you attract better clients, retain them longer, and grow a real business. Let's get into it. We're going to take a look at a real-life support call that came in that turned into a training session. Listen to this.
This call was about for you with me today.
Okay.
I want to build something in Pixel to help me on a day-to-day basis. I feel like where I could step up and do more is the relationships with realtors. I had an amazing relationship with Alaska, but I left. It's been over 3 years. I'm seeing Alaska slipping, and I'm like, I need to get on the phone and I need to check in with people. But I want to create a good system for me to do that. And I'm kind of struggling through, like, how do I want to do it in Pixel? What I want is the things that are happening are great. The reactivation campaign is great. I did add some other things in, like after 30 days, there's an email sequence that goes out about how to get your listing more views. It's like a marketing blitz.
Mm-hmm.
The next step that I want to do is my VAs. I want them to send messages like check-ins, and I want to do check-ins, whether it's text or phone calls. And I'm trying to figure out how to build that.
What kind of check-ins? Do you have a cadence or a data point that you want to monitor?
I don't know. That's something I'm struggling with to figure out. It's like, do I want to check in after they haven't booked for a while? Or do I just want to be like, I want to check in with everybody like once a quarter, or, I want to touch base with every client.
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning towards that a little bit, like whether they've ordered or not, it doesn't matter. Like maybe I just want to call them. I don't know, once a quarter, if that's even realistic. I mean,
how many clients do you have? Do you know off the top of your head?
Question. Active clients, probably 400.
Okay.
That's in that realm.
So 400 divided by 60 working days in a quarter. What's that?
So that's 6 people, like 6.5 people a day.
Okay.
And so I'm like,
so you could,
can I?
So our client connection roadmap part module of the Pixel Marketing Method is designed for that. It's designed to get you to think about, how do I do that multiple touches throughout the year? Part of it is your email newsletter. Part of it is promo offers. Part of it is birthday and shoot anniversaries to give you a reason to reach out. But showing up at events and just being around so they see you a lot. But part of it is to one-on-one just connect with people. What most of the time I think is, when you start looking at it from that standpoint, it's like, okay, most of our clients are getting hit several times a month with something from us, whether it be digital or physical, us showing up or what have you. I think, and this is completely up to you, but I think that the better use of a lot of time is on the higher producers. And that's where you take it to that next level and you start going down the list of just everybody, just once a quarter, call them up and see how their business is doing. See if there's anything you can do to come alongside them and be better at what you do to better support them or whatever. Obviously, you can't do this necessarily in Alaska, but in Utah, go out, do some coffee meetups, meet up with people and get a little bit of that face-to-face. And I think that goes a lot further without draining you. Because again, if you try to do that with 7 people a day, that could be a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when most of those people are doing 1 or 2 shoots a year. And it's like, well, do I need to take that next level with them? Or do I just need to work with the people that are doing consistent volume and maintaining a relationship there? And so when you start looking at what does the customer journey look like in your business, what pieces do you have in place? Do you have a weekly newsletter? Do you have promo offers? Do you have your birthday reminders and thank you cards and stuff going on? Do you have the shoot anniversary, which gives you a reason to reach out and give them a reward?
I'm going to take some notes while you're talking here.
Yeah,
I'm taking notes because those are some very obvious areas that you're right. I could spend some time And those are areas that my VAs could really, like, I just
Hmm.
hired another full-time VA. So we're up to like 8 VAs now on our team. Email newsletters. I know we've been talking about getting our, like, we're blogging right now because I,
Hmm.
I just set up all of our websites into Pixel, right?
Yep.
And so now I'm like, okay, now I want to start blogging in Pixel. And so we're doing that on a weekly basis. The
Hmm.
next piece is maybe sending out those blog posts.
That is super simple. There's an RSS feed for the blog. Stick it in the email, create a template, and every week an email goes out as long as you have a new blog that goes out. And so it just goes one on one. That is super simple.
I don't know anything about RSS feeds.
Okay.
On that, I would
So
love to
RSS
learn how to
feed
do that.
is really simple syndication. That's what RSS stands for. It is how pull it from blogs. YouTube has an RSS feed, and all it is structured data of content. And so you've got your headline, you've got your header image, a blurb about the content. So in a blog format, you've got your header, you've got your image, you've got your content, and it takes that and then it just sends it in a JSON. I think it's XML format that can be read. And then what you do from an email standpoint is you just do an RSS email, you put in the feed, and you say every Friday, or I would probably do every Monday. Every Monday, check this feed and however many items. So if you have your blog, it'll just take the most recent item or the most recent 2 or 3 or whatever you want to do, and it'll put that content in the email and send it out your format. And so RSS is a really cool way. I used to use it actually the first iteration of the hot sheet email that I ever did, where it got a little bit more automated. I actually built an RSS creator, I guess is what I did. Yeah, that would look at the HD Photo Hub sites, pull all the data, and then create an RSS feed so that I could have the email just automatically go out. I will say that our hot sheet email is another one of those things that's on that client connection roadmap.
And I'm not doing that. So that's an area that I need to step up.
And it's something that it's not the next thing on our list, but it's the thing we're going to have that done here in the next quarter or by the end of this first quarter. We're
Where that's kind of like an
it's an
automated thing.
automatic thing. And so you can set that up to go out every Friday. It'll automatically do it based on what is actually been activated or active. And so things like that, when you start looking at the baseline of what are we doing for everybody, or what is our average client getting communicated with, and look at the things that you can do that are a little bit more, I don't want to say automated, but I do want to say automated, is that you want these things that are just kind of already happening and start looking at it. It's like, am I communicating enough and, showing up enough, or do I need to add more? And when you start looking at where do I add more that's valuable, a phone call is great, but you don't need to do a phone call every day, maybe even every quarter. Maybe on the higher end on some people you do, but somebody who does one shoot a year, does it really make sense
Yeah.
to call them once a quarter? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I modeled the client connection roadmap after the 47 touch, 43 touch, 40, whatever. I can't remember the term, but Gary Keller's
Yeah.
touch system.
I think they do 33 touch or something like that. Yeah.
36 touch. I think it's 30,
Something
36
like
is
that.
what
Yeah.
it changes depending on which brokerage wants to do and what they've added in and what. But the whole concept there was to have multiple touches throughout the year with your sphere of influence so that when they were to come across somebody who is looking to buy or sell, you'd be the first person that they recommended. When they were looking to buy or sell, you were the first person that they went to because you were the person who were constantly in communication with them. And it didn't take much to do that, but you do this systematically so that they have a call strategy where you group people in like A, B, C. And I'm going to butcher this because I haven't looked at it in a while, but A were effectively your top producers. B were your middle producers. C were your one-offs. And so you group them by that. And then your top producers, they're going to get most of your communication, most of your good deals. They're going to get most of everything. The B, they're only doing a few shoots a year, communicate with them slightly differently. And then C, they do one shoot. Those are the one-offs. Those are effectively the homeowner that booked their own shoot that's on your list is like, I don't need to do anything more than what we are currently doing. Quite frankly, I probably don't even need to market to them at all. But when you break it down to that level, that's what agents are taught. Agents are taught to go through their lists, like who are the people that are going to recommend me the most? Who are the people that are most likely to move? So you start looking at, well, when was the last time they moved? They moved in 5 years. Well, they're right in that sweet spot where they're probably going to be looking to move again. So I should probably step up my marketing with them, which I get doesn't mean much to us, but that's the kind of level of segmenting that they were teaching. And so I modeled our client connection on that because, showing up on email and text and phone call and direct mail and presentations at the office and stuff like that, and just being around what is what they're taught. And so they appreciate that. And it works because it is a relationship
Yeah.
driven model. And so I think that if you look at what you're currently doing, what does current customer journey look like? What are the pieces that you're currently doing? What are some things that you can add in that are a little bit more automated, such as the newsletters and stuff like that, where you're showing up more often? How do you define your top producer? How do you define your up and coming top producer, or at least your middle of the road guy? And how do you define your low end? Hey, I don't really need to do much else with them. Because then once you do that, then you can determine, what do I need to do to stay even more relationship driven with our top producers? Because those are the ones that you need to make sure they don't go anywhere. What do I need to do? What can I do for that middle of the road? Do I need to call them twice a year? Maybe your top producers you call once a quarter. Maybe your top producers, you sit down for coffee once a quarter and you call them once a month just to see how the month went. Once you start looking at that and seeing what you want to do, then you can build the automations behind it. Then you can set it up in Pixel to actually track it and do what you need to do. But until you know what that journey looks like and what those milestones and whatnot that you want to do a certain reach out for, it's hard to go and develop an automation. It's like, oh, well, I'll do this. And then, well, that didn't work. Or you'll have unintended consequences where all of a sudden you'll have, 1,600 tasks to do. And it's like, well, I'm not going to do any of that because it's just not going to happen. I was out with a client a couple weeks ago and they wanted to do welcome calls and stuff like that. And just, check in, a little bit of check in, but most of it was, we're going to call them when the shoot was booked. We're going to call them when the shoot's delivered, at least on that first one and whatnot. And he had set up some stuff and he had like 1,600 tasks and calls to do. And so it was overwhelming. So he never got started because he set it up wrong and it just kind of flooded it. And it was like, no. And so it's like, well, first off, let's reset. Let's delete all of that because you're not going to do any of them, because you and I both know you're not going to do any of those. And let's reset your mindset to start looking at these things. Because if you've just trained yourself not to look at tasks and not to look at the call queue or any of the systems that we have here, because it's overwhelming. So we need to reset that before you move on to do it again. And then let's do this on a smaller scale. No, let's, maybe you only do the welcome calls and a team member does your follow-up, or vice versa, or what have you. And let's make sure that we're not making 1,600 different notifications and tasks so things get buried. When I first set up the DM tracker for very early on, when I first did Pixel, I had tasks and notifications and reminders and stuff built at every stage. And what I found is that VAs would get lost because all they'd see is a whole bunch of notifications and they wouldn't know what to do. And they would miss client communication coming in because here's all these tasks and things that they're supposed to have done. And did they do them? And it's like, And so sometimes not having a lot of that in there is just as important so that you do actually get things done. And, 7 calls a day, while it seems like a lot, it's not that bad if you were to call everybody. But when you start looking at your top producers, out of the 400, you probably have 50 that are really top producers. And if you needed to do 50 coffee meetups a year, do you think you could go do those?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's just, you got to look at the customer journey and what are you currently doing and what do you want to do? And then look at the cadence from that aspect. And then you can set up all sorts of reminders, all sorts of automation to do a lot of that.
I'm going to sneeze. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a good reminder. I don't think I've spent much time at all on the client connection piece. And so, yeah, we basically have an onboarding And then we have the reactivation side, and we have a little bit in the middle, but there's definitely a lot of room that we could build out more in the middle. I do have some workflows to identify, like I have them like tier one, tier two, tier three producer, like a tier one producer workflow that, identifies when somebody's ordered so many shoots that they become
Hmm.
that. So that
Yeah.
should be fairly easy for me to say, okay, these are the people that I should focus on. As you know, it's always kind of hard to know. I have a hard time sometimes knowing what those thresholds should be. But I don't know. Maybe in
Well,
the past, what I've done is I just run a report
yeah.
and I say, okay, I'm just going to take the top percentage, whatever those numbers are, those are the top people.
This is the perfect time of year to data mine your CRM. Start running some filters and start looking at lifetime shoots and year to date, or we don't have a last year to date, but we should. But look at those lifetime numbers and start looking to see where people are, see who you should be communicating with and whatnot. And even year to date, we're in February. Which ones are doing volume now? Those are definitely going to be top producers. If they can do volume in January, they can do volume in July. But
Yeah.
going through and data mining all of your current stuff and saying, okay, well, who do I need to do? And then you can always do automations to apply tags. I think you said you have a workflow that once a certain
Yeah.
client hits a certain amount of numbers. And so you do stuff like that and have it automatically trigger those touch points that you want to do. You just need to know what those touch points are. It's like you want to schedule a coffee meetup, for instance. You could schedule a workflow where it actually does an email and a text message out saying, hey, I'd love to take you out, buy a cup of coffee and see how business is going and see how we could come alongside you and stuff. And then do a calendar link to click here to schedule your coffee meetup. And then, you schedule a time and you do it. And that can automatically happen. You don't have to do those outreaches manually.
Yeah. Cause I definitely work better. If it's on my calendar, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
Especially if it's an automated thing and where they could. So does Pixel have a good way to do that calendar option?
Yeah. So
Like,
you can do the calendar option, duplicate Calendly. What I would do is I would set up a new calendar for coffee meetups with a specific location. In Utah, you don't want your calendar open for any time, but maybe Tuesdays between 10 and 2, you do coffee meetups. And you do them at this particular Starbucks or this particular coffee shop or whatever. And that's going to be your option. And then that's just what those options are. And they can choose a time during that time and then you do it. There was a book. I don't remember what book it was, but it was all about connecting with people, effectively having an office at a coffee shop or whatever. And you just had people coming in and out. You sat there and you had your meetings all day at that particular spot. But it made it look like you had a whole lot more intention around meeting people, but you just had it scheduled. And this was the time of day that you were at that particular coffee shop. You would just do your thing and have your meetings, and they just, worked out really well. But if you do something similar, you don't have to be that rigorous about it. But if you do set up a coffee meetup at a certain time and time frame that they can do that, that way you're not scattered throughout the city at different times and different parts of the week and trying to remember. It's like, okay, what's on my calendar today? Okay, Friday. Why am I going across town to meet for coffee with this guy? And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And so you do it, make it a little bit more specific, and you do it that way. From a calling standpoint, there's all sorts of automations you can do there as long as you actually do them. I caution people with calling queues because if you aren't going to sit there and actually call people, it can build up pretty quickly. And then all of a sudden it's like you've got 1,600 of them in there. Like, I'm not going to do any of these. And so again, just figure out what do you want to do for those 3 layers. You've got your top producers, your middle layer, and the bottom. And then map out what does the typical life cycle or customer journey look like once they place an order? What communication are they currently getting? And then where could you add stuff in? And I would go with the easy stuff first, because that's the stuff that is probably going to, you're going to be able to set it up, let it run, and then you can just start layering on the more manual stuff, such as calls and coffee meetups. Because if you're not doing a newsletter, if you're not doing the hot sheet, which I get, we'll help you with that here soon. But if you're not doing those, like we used to send 2 emails out a week. Our newsletter go out on Monday and our hot sheet out on Friday. People knew we existed. And that right there was crazy how powerful just knowing that you exist is. Because, and I've said this multiple times, even in the book and whatnot. Years ago, when I was moving stuff around, I stopped doing it in email for a couple of weeks. I didn't send out an email for a couple of weeks. I was at a hitch out of it, and one of our clients came in and said, "Oh, you're still doing this? How am I getting your emails?" I was like, "Really? Really?"
Yeah.
It's like a couple of weeks. They forgot. They figured we moved on to something else, and any number of things. It's not necessarily your fault. It's the fault of the industry in that photographers in general have a propensity of doing one type of photography for a little while and then, let's go do this other thing, which is actually how a lot of people came into the industry. Of they were doing weddings or portraits, and COVID came in, shut everything down, and said, "Oh, well, we'll shoot real estate because that's what's still working right now." And then some people, it didn't work, so they went back to portraits and weddings and what they knew and what have you. And agents are used to that. They're used to people coming and going. If I haven't heard from you, maybe you don't exist anymore. Maybe you went back to shooting weddings and maybe you don't do real estate or any number of things that are going through your head. They're busy. They're doing all sorts of stuff. People are coming at them in multiple ways with free shoot offers and all sorts of things. But if you show up consistently, and it's not even a matter of them reading the blog or reading the hot sheet. It's your name popping up in their email every week, over and over. You obviously want to be providing value. Sheet email is value. The blog post, newsletter is value. But as long as you're still doing it, those are great touches because you're showing up in their inbox. They see you all the time. And that goes a really long way, staying top of mind with people. And then you toss in a referral contest a couple times a year. You toss in promo offers a couple times a year. You toss in, like I said, the birthday club and anniversaries, and you start looking at all of those and mapping them out on a calendar. It's like, we're actually doing pretty good. Or here's a few things we could add in. There's like maybe, when you start looking at like counting up all the touches, like we're touching them 142 times. Yeah, well, let's add in a phone call. Or yeah, let's add in a coffee meetup or whatever it happens to be. And is it, this makes sense? Or it's like, maybe we should dial back the amount we're communicating. That seems like a lot or whatever. But until you map it out and you start looking at, well, what do we have that's automatically sent? And then what can we start adding in to touch them more? And I joke when I say, dial it back, because you should almost never. If people aren't complaining, you don't need to be dialing back your communication. You can always add more, especially nowadays. What was it? It used to be, it took 7 times for somebody to actually, realize the point that you're trying to make. Well, that's just gotten higher and higher. I think the last I heard was like something like 42 times before somebody actually realizes that they saw you. It's just getting ridiculous as we get bombarded by more and more media. I mean, everybody's walking around scrolling on their phone anymore. Just because they saw that reel doesn't mean they're going to remember it. It's going to take 42 times before they say, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense." And so the more you communicate, the more you can do it, the more it's going to show up. I think probably your best starting point is map that out where you are, what you want to add in, and then at what cadence or what people you want to do. And then I think it'll be even clearer to you because you know automations, you know this stuff as to what you need to set up. But at that point, then it's like, okay, well, I want to do a call. Well, I can do either just a notification, or I can do a task, or I can do a call queue, whatever happens to be. And what triggers that point? It's whenever somebody reaches this, or maybe once they get this tag added once a quarter, it just cycles through and you just do a 90-day wait, or any number of things that you can do to set up the automation to do it. It's just a matter of knowing what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. I appreciate it, because there's a lot of those that we're not doing. We're not doing promos, periodic promos. We're not doing newsletter. The only thing we're doing is just social media posting, which you know how that is anymore. Your followers don't even really see it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the next thing I need to work on. I think we've got the beginning pretty good, like the new client
Mhm.
pretty good. But then after that, it's just kind of
It's ultimately why I laid out the 9-step framework the way I did. Magnetic messaging, understanding who you're targeting. Irresistible offers, crafts an offer so you have something to talk to people. Lead generation engine, get people in front of. Then it's first impression framework, which is all about the onboarding. The next step is client connection roadmap. So once you've onboarded them appropriately, let's maintain that level of communication for the life cycle of everything. Then you start adding in the rewards and the reviews and all of that other stuff down the line.
Yeah, I think I bounced around a lot, right? We did the offers and the lead generation, and then we did the reactivation, and then we did the referrals. I think that's where we're at. Connection and the loyalty are the two
Yep.
I haven't focused on in Pixel yet.
Yep. And they kind of do go hand in hand because you get the birthday from that loyalty program. And just make it a birthday club or what have you, any number of things you can do there. And then you send out rewards and what have you occasionally. Once you start putting those promos and those rewards and that type of stuff in place, it gives you a reason to reach out specifically for them. And they start, cool. Yeah, awesome. I'll take you up on that. And then there's both reward, loyalty side, but it's also that client connection side.
And they kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps. I'll focus on those areas. I think I'll focus on those areas way before I start to do more of like what I can personally do, because I think by building that out, that'll actually help a lot.
Thanks for listening to the Pixel Marketing Show. If you're ready to go from random acts of marketing to remarkable results, grab your free copy of the Pixel Marketing Method at pixelmarketingmethodbook.com. If this episode helped you, share it with another real estate media business owner. Make sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Until next time.